So it is going to be very interesting to see what Graham decides to bring for this turn 0, as well as what James decides to do, because there are a couple of different options. We've seen this in a lot of teams so far, where you have the ability to use the sand option with Excadrill and Tyranitar, but you also have a couple of other options as well, where you do have the Arcanine, the Dragapult, the Rotom Wash. I think is going to be something that is going to be a little bit trickier to bring in this situation, because Graham does have that Ludicolo as an option, and then of course that Togekiss as well. But we're about to find out what these leads are.
Yeah, well, it turns out that on James's side, the leads will be Dragapult and the Rotom Wash, and Graham will be opting for the Snorlax lead alongside Grimmsnarl. So this is not the worst place for Snorlax to be here. Grimmsnarl does offer some fake-out pressure, could protect the Snorlax if it's going to try and set up Belly Drum immediately. But, you know, not a lot of instant pressure like you would get from the Durant.
Not a whole lot of instant pressure, at least from Graham's side, but James might be opting to bring some of that of their own. You will see that Dragapult get Dynamax immediately here, and that is going to threaten quite a bit of damage early on, and also potentially eat the fake out.
Yeah, the big Dragapult can deal some big damage back, and with that max Whirlwind can lower the attack of Snorlax. So dealing more than 50% hit points there on Snorlax, going to force Snorlax to already eat its berry, making a Belly Drum incredibly risky here. You can see the damage from that Life Orb, indicating how offensive this Dragapult is going to be. Rotom also goes for the nasty plot just to start setting up. James is trying to kick it into heavy gear.
James is opting to go for very high offensive pressure here, but there is going to be that option from the Grimmsnarl of actually not going for that fake out, but actually going for a bit more damage, and a yawn now showing from the Snorlax.
Snorlax, it's like, usually Snorlax is the tired Pokemon, but it looks like Snorlax is going to make Rotom Wash a little bit sleepy. Maybe try to block the road on James's side. Dragapult took a little bit of damage from that Spirit Break, but shrugged it off thanks to the Dynamax. Still going to be able to deal good damage, and the Yawn, of course, forces that Rotom Wash to switch out.
That Rotom Wash switching out is going to bring the Togekiss into battle, and Dragapult going for another Max Wurmbrand is going to get yet another attack drop onto the Snorlax, and this time bring it very, very low. So
much damage there. And because the damage looked basically the same there, the Spirit Break not affecting the damage output from Dragapult, which is interesting to note about that Pokemon. Another Yawn, though, connects with Togekiss.
We've seen this before in another series where the Yawn is actively working as a counter to this hyper offense here on James's side, where you really don't want your Pokemon to be put to sleep. You have one turn to be able to switch them out and make sure that that Yawn doesn't go completely off. So we're going to see another withdraw here, allowing that Togekiss to go back and get the Rotom as a switch in here for James.
Yeah, Rotom switching back in after Togekiss got tired. Just back and forth. All of James's Pokemon are getting sleepy, while Dragapult is just going to finish off the Snorlax here with another Max Whirlwind. And those attack drops are adding up on Grimmsnarl, which has been trying to deal damage with this Spirit Break. Will not pick up the KO this time. Ooh. 4 hit points left, so Dragapult gets one more attack before it thanks to that Life Orb recoil.
It's really interesting to note that we are seeing this Dragapult move first. That means that James is able to get off so much pressure and damage early on here. And now that the
so fast.
It is so fast, and Ludicolo switching in as well. It doesn't necessarily have the rain set up yet, but we have also seen that Graham hasn't opted to go for the Dynamax, so it's possible that Ludicolo is going to be the one that sets the weather for itself.
Okay, Rotom switching out again. Just Rotom and Togekiss switching back and forth. But this time there's no Yawn to catch the Togekiss on the switch-in, so maybe it's going to stick around for a little while longer. And like you called it, looks like Graham is finally going to use the Dynamax factor and bring that Ludicolo into a Dynamax Ludicolo. Big Pineapple. Max Geyser could be able to set its own rain.
Max Geyser would be able to set the rain, and Ludicolo is known to carry that Swift Swim ability, which is going to make it the fastest Pokemon on the field. But Grimmsnarl going for the Sucker Punch, it's going to show that Dragapult was attempting to go for a last and final attack, but will faint in the process.
Yeah, showing Sucker Punch is big there. Not a lot of Grimmsnarl are carrying multiple attacks, but Graham's has the Sucker Punch in addition to the Spirit Break, while we'll pick up the KO on Dragapult with that 4 hit points, while Ludicolo sets its own rain and gets a good amount of damage onto Togekiss. That's only going to go up now that the rain is set.
Damage is going to go up. The speed is going to increase as well for this Ludicolo if it is running that Swift Swim ability. But what's interesting here is that the weather's going to get reset because Tyranitar is going to come in, and that Sandstream ability is going to reset the weather on the field, creating a sandstorm.
Yeah, the rain is gone. Ludicolo was happy for a very, very brief moment. Tyranitar here is going to switch in. Should be feeling pretty comfortable now that because it has the sand up, and it still takes super effective damage from Ludicolo, but the sand boosting its special defense will help. And that Grimmsnarl has taken so many different max Wyrmwind debuffs that it's not a big threat to the Tyranitar either. So James should be able to take some momentum here.
I think James is going to be able to do quite a bit, except for the fact that Graham still has the Dynamax turns left. And Togekiss, once again, is getting swapped out in favor of this Rotom Wash. It's going to also be a switch from Graham, bringing out the Grimmsnarl and bringing in the Milotic.
All right, so Milotic's out here. Not the first time we've seen Milotic, but we'll see if Graham is going to be able to make something happen with it. The Dark Pulse did almost no damage to that Ludicolo, which is going to fire off a Max Geyser at the Rotom. A good switch there from James to protect the Togekiss. Although now the rain has finally been set, so Ludicolo will get 1 turn of rain before the Dynamax ends.
That's going to allow it to get off of some really big damage here, and Graham, being such a hyper-offensive player, is going to want to take his full advantage of that. But James smartly is going to switch out the Tyranitar just to be able to preserve that Sandstream ability in case that Ludicolo sticks around for multiple turns. Doesn't want that rain to continue to help this Ludicolo.
Yeah, James protecting the Rotom here because he knows that Ludicolo's max overgrowth will deal a substantial amount of damage. Instead, it's just going to deal okay damage to the Rotom through the Protect, getting some nice little pot shots off as James is switching around. But now switching in the Togekiss in favor instead of the Tyranitar gives Rotom a little bit more backup here for the future turns, but that also gives Milotic a chance to coil up.
So the coil's really important for Graham because Milotic, as we've seen in past series, likes to run Hypnosis, and that coil not only gives it a couple of stat boosts, but it also increases its accuracy. So that Hypnosis is going to be able to hit a little bit easier for Graham, and that's going to be a bit of a problem for James to play around because unlike Jan, that Hypnosis is going to take effect immediately.
Yeah, and it's been a sort of explains why Graham has been not super interested in targeting down that Tyranitar, instead focusing on the Togekiss and the Rotom Wash. If Milotic is able to get up a couple coils, the defense boosts there are going to make it very difficult for Tyranitar to break through. We're going to see if Graham can break through this Follow Me.
Ooh, Ludicolo showing that it has the Icy Wind. This is going to lower the speed for both, and it's also super effective damage on the Togekiss. So going to bring it to about half, and really what Graham's win condition is here is to just try to get as many of the supportive Pokemon down as possible, but Hypnosis first, and Togekiss is going to avoid that even with the coil.
Not enough coils on that Milotic. Misses the Hypnosis and gives James an opportunity to boost the Rotom special attack. Now a Nasty Plot plus 2 special attack on Rotom could be very threatening to that Milotic.
Nasty Plot is now James's win condition, just making sure that we're going to have enough damage on board for James to deal with the Pokemon that are left on Graham's side. But the rain is still active for 2 more turns, which means that this Ludicolo is still going to have the ability to move first. But as we saw, the Icy Wind doesn't actually do very much damage there. James opting to go for another Follow Me here isn't going to be able to redirect the spread moves.
Well, it looks like Ludicolo is just going to go for the damage on Scald, trying to knock out the Togekiss before redirection can happen. The burn actually stopping the Hypnosis. Scald not doing anything for Graham. Unlucky there, as the Nasty Plot boosted Thunderbolt deals big damage to Milotic, just barely misses the KO. Milotic's going to be able to heal up a little bit with the berry and with the grassy terrain. But man, that Scald burn means that Togekiss gets at least 1 more turn to Follow Me and redirect any attacks against that Rotom.
Rotom really needs that because this is Rotom's chance to be able to get off another attack, and Milotic's not going to be able to survive yet another Thunderbolt. That did so much damage, but this Togekiss is actually going to be protected from James, and Tyranitar coming back out to reset the weather once again.
Togekiss switching out for the Tyranitar. Really interesting choice there. Not going to protect the Rotom with a Follow Me here, just going to use the Protect to protect the Rotom by itself. Rotom doesn't need any help to protect itself. It has the move Protect. Ludicolo is going to get a Scald off onto Tyranitar, which does some good damage, but out of the rain, into the sand, and into the weakness policy to give another boost to Tyranitar and another option for James to deal big damage. That Hypnosis into the Protect, not doing anything.
That was a really great turn for James. Not only did it stop the Hypnosis by the Rotom protecting, but now the Tyranitar has been switched into a great read by James because now it has the weakness policy boost, and not only do you have a Nasty Plot Rotom next to it, but both Pokemon are going to be able to dish out lots of damage, and this Tyranitar even more protected because of the Sandstorm.
Yeah, and a good heads-up play from James to realize that because of the burn on Togekiss, there was the opportunity to switch in the Tyranitar for basically free. Gets the Scald, but you like that to activate the weakness policy. So don't have to worry about Hypnosis into that slot because the Togekiss is already burned. So good switches there and able to fire off this big Rock Slide. But Milotic showing just how strong it is with the Coil. Unfortunate flinch on the Ludicolo, but Hypnosis will connect this time.
Hypnosis is going to connect that, which means that Tyranitar is going to be put to sleep, even with the weakness policy. That's going to give Ludicolo a chance to deal with it, but unfortunately, maybe not through that Thunderbolt.
Yeah, Ludicolo goes down to the Thunderbolt from Rotom Wash, but Milotic's still on the field, still able to fire off more Hypnosises. Tyranitar is asleep. Togekiss in the back, it might now be becoming relevant that it is burned. Last Pokemon is going to be Grimmsnarl, which we know does have offensive options on Graham's side, more so than some of the other Grimmsnarl that we've seen in the past.
Yeah, and it is going to be at full HP, which means that this Grimmsnarl is very, very healthy to help handle some of the Pokemon that are on James's side. But Milotic really is going to need to go for a couple more of these Hypnosises and just make sure that that Tyranitar stays asleep. That's Graham's real hope right now.
Yeah, it is real dangerous playing against Milotic, though. You see the Fake Out coming out onto the Rotom Wash, because if you give Milotic free turns, it does have the ability to recover up and heal back some of that health. Instead, just going to fire off a Muddy Water onto both the Rotom Wash and the Tyranitar, trying to deal some damage for free against both those Pokemon. Of course, the Rotom flinch, not going to be able to do anything, and Tyranitar asleep.
Yeah, Tyranitar is still going to be asleep. Grimmsnarl taking its first bit of damage of the match. But this Tyranitar, unfortunately for James, just hasn't been able to do very much because of the sleep. Even though the weakness policy got procced, it is going to be within striking distance. This Grimmsnarl from Graham has shown that it does have some access to some offensive moves, but we will see a Protect coming out from the Rotom first. Let's see what Graham reads.
Yeah, Rotom gets a Protect off. Sucker Punch fails into the Protect, and Tyranitar is still sleeping. Muddy Water, thanks to that coil accuracy boost, will connect onto the Tyranitar. Should be enough to pick up the KO. 8 hit points, just barely not. Tyranitar holding on for dear life here as we head into the end game of our first game of the final round of Swiss.
Graham's going to need to get a knockout here in order to have a good chance in this match. But also for James as well, this Tyranitar has to wake up. And you still have to worry about the fact that you have a burned Togekiss in the back. And you're also looking at those speeds. And unfortunately, Tyranitar is still going to be asleep.
Yeah, Tyranitar is still asleep. Grimmsnarl trying to Sucker Punch. Looks like it probably was trying to Sucker Punch the Tyranitar on a Protect or something like that. Muddy Water instead just going to clean up both of those KOs. And now just the burned Togekiss in the back. James is going to drop this first game as Graham has played really well in a much slower environment.
It's really interesting to me because usually, and even he said it himself in that top trainer video, that there is kind of a tendency for Graham to play in a more hyper-offensive style. But in this match, we actually had to see Graham adjust and kind of take a couple steps back, take a couple of breaths and say, you know what, I actually need to be a little bit more strategic about this and maybe wait my turn. Just wait for that perfect opportunity in order to get off that damage.
Yeah, and he found all the opportunities he needed, picks up the KO there with the sucker punch, and that's going to be a game 1 victory for Graham Amedee in this crucial win and end match. And we've seen it before. We haven't actually seen a lot of 3-game sets here on stream so far. So going up in this first match, a huge benefit for Graham. The pressure is off him. Now it's all on James. James needs to win this next game to keep his tournament alive. Otherwise, this will be how it ends.
Well, especially in these aggressive style play of games, it can get decided in a couple of turns.
Yeah.
You might not have that long in order to actually come up with a game plan and really figure out whether or not you can take this game. So this is going to be very important for both of these players to kind of put on their thinking caps and make sure that they put everything that they've got into this last and final set.
Yeah, I think it's very important right now to take just a brief moment to breathe in, reset. There's a lot of information that came out during that last game, especially on that Grimmsnarl. Knowing that it's a little bit more offensive than you would expect from a Grimmsnarl, has both the Spirit Break and Sucker Punch. Really important information to have, especially when you're trying to protect some of those low HP Pokemon in the back. If Grimmsnarl's still out, at the very end there were 3 Pokemon on James' side, all that were in red health. Grimmsnarl would have been happy to Sucker Punch any of them. So you're going to have to be worried. You can't just ignore the Grimmsnarl on Graham's side.
Mm-hmm. That Grimmsnarl was kept alive and healthy.
Yeah,
and
fully healthy.
Yeah, and I actually really like Graham's use of the Snorlax, not necessarily to get off the big damage with the belly drum, but utilizing that yawn, which is an important move for James to know about going into this game too, because it really forced James to kind of play on the back foot when you had Pokemon after Pokemon that was getting yawned, and Snorlax was also eating up all of that damage because James didn't want to have to deal with continuously getting yawned. It meant that Grimmsnarl was left to be healthy in the back, and also it meant that Graham was able to set up for success with the rest of the Pokemon that they had while Snorlax was soaking up that damage.
Yeah, I mean, Graham doesn't have a Togekiss on his team, but that Snorlax did a lot of things Togekiss normally does. It was able to spread yawn, soak up damage. Beautiful. Absolutely crucial, awesome way of using it, like you pointed out. I was really impressed, though, especially with how Graham was able to manipulate the very end of that game. With Ludicolo, Dynamax, still getting some damage off, getting the rain, fighting over the weather, and then keeping cool when, things like keeping cool to find the opportunities to get coils and make those hypnosis better.
Absolutely. James had some incredible reads in that game 1 as well that really made that series competitive. But we're into game 2. Potential match point here for Graham. And these leads, we're going to have a Dragapult and a Togekiss for James, and then Grimmsnarl and Snorlax once again for Graham.
Yeah, good lead matchups again. Grimmsnarl, of course, still threatening the fake-out pressure onto Togekiss. Dragapult shows that it can take as many of those Spirit Breaks as possible. And, of course, because of that clear body, not going to take any risk of losing any stats from that attack. And the Snorlax, I just don't know how you play against a Snorlax that shows that if you leave it alone, it's going to set up could potentially set up Belly Drum or Curse or something like that. But also, it might also just yawn your Pokemon. So it's really hard to Dynamax in front of that Pokemon.
It really is, and James is already going to be playing a little bit slower here, bringing the Dragapult out of play and bringing the Rotom Wash in its place, but Graham is also making an adjustment as well with the Milotic coming in.
All right, yeah, Milotic now out on the field for Graham. It was the star of the end of last game. Going to take this Dazzling Gleam easily, even though it's a critical hit. Well, again, Graham is going to be spreading these yawns, but really nice to have the Milotic out alongside the Snorlax for those yawns to potentially buy some time for coils, but really smart switching from James to get the Rotom Wash alongside on the other end of the Milotic.
Rotom Wash is going to be threatening that Thunderbolt that we saw a little bit before, and Milotic is already within striking distance, so even though that Dazzling Gleam didn't look like a whole lot of damage by itself, it's actually putting it within knockout range for this Milotic and also out of berry range.
Yeah, the little damage from Dazzling Gleam adds up. You know, it's crazy to see just how little damage even that crit did on Milotic, but like you mentioned, it's enough to scare Graham away. Having to switch out the Milotic, doesn't want to just take free Thunderbolts from that Rotom Wash. Looks like James will show the Follow Me on Togekiss, though, to free up the Rotom Wash from any of the targets of Graham's side. Just going to take the sleep in exchange for the free Nasty Plot.
The Nasty Plot is very important for James, but the Yawn, unfortunately, going to fail because Togekiss was already asleep. Was expecting in that moment that James was going to end up switching out the Pokemon because that was kind of the pattern of behavior that James showed us in Game 1. But this time, James says, you know what, I'm just going to take the sleep because Rotom can just go for the Protect here, get the Nasty Plot off, and ensure that it can get out that damage.
Yeah, Rotom protecting itself from a potential fake out from Grimmsnarl. It's still going to be protected from the Spirit Break that comes out, but Snorlax does show the Belly Drum now from Graham. So a Pokemon asleep, a Pokemon protecting because it's afraid of fake out, and now Snorlax gets to maximize its attack, cut its health in half, eat that Agua of Belly, and heal right back up.
It is going to heal right back up, almost to full, and that means that now we have two Pokemon on the field that have boosted stats, which are going to be providing a lot of pressure for both of these trainers. This is where we start to see that aggressive game, but Grimmsnarl now switching out.
Yeah, Grimmsnarl switches out for Ludicolo. The support Pokemon has done its work. It's gotten used to the pressure to force Rotom to protect, and now Graham gets to go ahead and Dynamax his Snorlax. No, scratch that. Gigantamax his Snorlax. And just shake that berry tree all over James's team.
That is going to be a Gigantamax Snorlax, and it's threatening so much pressure. The Thunderbolt, though, look at how little damage that does. And Togekiss is still fast asleep.
Yeah, Togekiss needs to wake up to help out its partner Rotom or any other Pokemon, or else this max attack Gigantamax Snorlax is about to just destroy James's team. Max Darkness there just in case James decided to switch in that Dragapult, covering all bases and still picking up the KOs.
Well, not only that, but you also had the special defense drop, which means that a lot of the attacks that are going to be coming out now are also going to be very effective against James' team. But we will see a switch up of the weather as Tyranitar comes in for the stand stream, and that means that this Ludicolo is going to have to figure out a different way in order to really get its speed.
Yeah. Because Snorlax has Gigantamax, we're not going to see any more Max Geysers coming out from Ludicolo. Still has a good matchup against Tyranitar, but we did see just how little damage James's Tyranitar was taking from water attacks earlier. Snorlax, though, maxed out, is going to be happy to just continue to fire off these Max Darknesses against James's team. Togekiss will switch out for the Dragapult, hoping to catch the G-Max Replenish while Dynamaxing the Tyranitar.
Dynamaxing Tyranitar is a really good decision here by James because it will be able to take advantage of the sand that it has just set for itself, making sure it's going to stay really safe. But not only that, just going to be able to increase its health pool in case Graham decided to target down that Tyranitar.
Yeah, it increases its health pool by 2 times, and Ludicolo goes for the fake out. Doesn't do anything to Dragapult on the switch in, and instead Tyranitar gets to fire off a Max Rock Squall onto Snorlax. That still did no damage.
Oh, and it gets a chance to use G-Max Replenish, which is going to go right into the Tyranitar, and even though it's not very effective, that does half the damage.
What'd you find, Snorlax? An Agua of Berry? Don't mind if I do.
That is going to be the G-Max Replenish secondary effect there, just a good chance that it can recycle the berry that it used before.
Yeah, so good damage on the Dynamax Tyranitar and a heal coming out from that G-Max Replenish. Belly Drum Gigantamax Snorlax is in its happy place right now.
Now looking at what we're going to have for the next couple of turns, we're going to see Tyranitar using a Max Guard here, and this is just James playing it really safe. As Dragapult goes for a Phantom Force, and I think this is just a really safe play to try to just position themselves a little bit better in this match, and also it's going to stall out these turns of Gigantamax for the Snorlax.
Yeah, super important to stall out that last turn of Gigantamax from Snorlax. We've seen just how little damage Snorlax has been taking. That's not because the damage hasn't been high, it's because Gigantamax Snorlax has so much health. So cutting that in half actually makes it way more manageable for James to pick up some knockouts on this Snorlax and maybe deal some good damage to the Ludicolo on the side as well.
Snorlax is also still sitting pretty healthy. It's not going to have access to that Aqua Berry anymore or the G-Max Replenish. But Ludicolo now going to get the switch and potentially seeing Milotic coming back in.
Yeah, Milotic will be supporting the Snorlax now, but Snorlax has to feel happy. Takes that Phantom Force pretty well, but also, you know, still takes a good amount of damage without a Coil Boost. The Rock Ball now is going to be enough to pick up the Snorlax, because James was able to, as you pointed out, smartly wait out those turns of Gigantamax.
Now the question is, does what Graham have in the back enough? You have the Ludicolo as well as the Grimmsnarl that have potential to come back out here, and the Milotic, just using its berry there, is going to be able to heal a little bit, but is there enough damage on the team to really deal with what's left on James' side? Now, you still have that Tyranitar that's sitting at about half health, and the Dragapult that's pretty healthy, and you do have that sleeping Togekiss in the back, but both the Dragapult as well as the Tyranitar are threatening a lot of pressure and damage for James.
Yeah, and I think that Dragapult in particular is a problem here, because one of the cool things about the last two Pokemon that Graham has is Ludicolo, which is now out on the field, and Grimmsnarl both have access to Fake Out. So if this Dragapult, you know, were not Ghost type, James would be in a really rough spot here, but instead able to just fire off a Dragon Claw onto Milotic. Doesn't quite pick up the KO, but Tyranitar is going to be able to move before both the Milotic and the Ludicolo, pick up the KO onto Milotic, and leave that Ludicolo flinching.
James' Pokemon are so fast, so they are going to be able to get out that damage before Graham's Pokemon can move. But what's good about what Graham gets a chance to do is get a free switch in with that Grimmsnarl now and see what they can do with that Fake Out.
Yeah, Grimmsnarl, if it has Thunder Wave, that's one way to potentially handle this this Dragapult. Without a way to deal with Dragapult to slow it down, Graham's in kind of a rough spot here, especially after that flinch from the Ludicolo, missing out on good damage onto either the Tyranitar or the Dragapult. But without any kind of, unless there's some speed control for Graham, that Dragapult's going to be very happy to keep firing off those Dragon Claws.
Grimmsnarl going for the Sucker Punch, but it's going to fail because it was trying to take out this Dragapult, but it will get a little bit of a Rock Slide miss as well.
Yeah, Rock Slide miss onto Ludicolo. The Dragapult Protect coming up big there, avoiding both the Sucker Punch from Grimmsnarl and this Icy Wind from Ludicolo. Tyranitar is going to take that Icy Wind and drop its speed. So not going to be as fast as it has been in the past. And again, the Sucker Punch from Grimmsnarl actually is putting on a lot of pressure on that Dragapult. Should be able to pick up that KO.
If it connects.
If it connects. Which is why James is protecting it, bringing in the Togekiss, the sleeping Togekiss in the back that's still at full health. So it's going to take a lot to get through this Togekiss, especially if it's getting free switch-ins like that Sucker Punch switch.
Ooh, but the Scald into the Togekiss. No chance for a burn there, but you will be able to get the critical hit, and that's going to be a nice chunk of damage.
Yeah, but free Rock Slide.
But this is important. Tyranitar was the one that moved last. So that Icy Wind was just enough in order to drop the speed so that Graham has the speed control at the moment.
Yeah, for the moment, Graham is in a position to take out that Tyranitar with Ludicolo. All depends on this Togekiss, though. Still asleep for this turn. No follow me's here, so Tyranitar is in danger of taking a Scald. But it looks like Ludicolo is just going to focus straight on the Togekiss instead. Get another critical hit there, and Spirit Break from Grimmsnarl going to try and finish that one off, and gets it.
Is going to be enough. Means that Graham is really not considering this Tyranitar a huge threat right now, just because Tyranitar is going for those Rock Slides. But unfortunately, the Ludicolo is going to get knocked out, and that means that Grimmsnarl is the last Pokemon to deal against this Tyranitar as well as the Dragapult.
Yeah, who knew that Togekiss could use Follow Me through the sleep there, attracting the ire of both of Graham's Pokemon, while Tyranitar is just free to fire off those rock slides. And now, with both Tyranitar and Dragapult, and Grimmsnarl only at 29 hit points, looks like James has brought this one back.
Looks like it. Grimmsnarl trying to go for that last and final knockout before it does get knocked out itself, and it will take Dragapult down with it.
All right, well, Rock Slide connects again. Graham did not get the Rock Slide miss that he needed for that. And instead, it looks like James is going to keep his tournament dreams alive and move on to a Game 3. Game 3, winning in. Is there anything better?
Especially as our last set of the day for the Swiss rounds of day 1 of the 2020 Oceania International Championships. I don't think it gets better than this.
Yeah, absolutely. That was such a fun set, a phenomenal play from both of those players. It was really interesting to see Graham decide to go with the Gigantamax Snorlax mode this time. Absolutely not what he had done in game 1. Instead just opting for the Yawn. But James made really good use of stalling out that Gigantamax, making sure that Snorlax was still taking damage, and then once the Gigantamax was over, able to knock it out. In the past, Belly Drum Snorlax has been so strong because those berries have been so strong, but now that they only restore about 30% of your health, they're nowhere near as strong as when they were restoring half, and you could really see that come into play in this game where Snorlax got 2 berries, but still was pretty easily knocked out.
But it wasn't just that. James ended up getting some incredible Protect reads, which really saved the team from a lot of what Graham was trying to do as a part of their win condition. So I feel as though James really outplayed Graham in the later parts of that set, where I definitely feel as though James is just continuing to step it up every single game. So the more information that James gets, the more that they're able to play around these different tech choices that Graham does have on the team.
Yeah, and now that all of that information is out on the table, it's time to see both these players know each other's tricks now. It's time to see what happens in Game 3. And you know, the last time we had a Game 3 earlier on in the day on a Durant team, that was the moment that they decided to bring the Durant. Given that the Snorlax mode didn't really work out, maybe time to consider going a little bit more offensive for Graham. But that being said, the slow and steady race with the Milotic in Game 1 was what got Graham in this position.
It's possible we see a Dynamax Ludicolo again.
Yeah.
It worked out really well for game 1, so it wouldn't be a surprise to me if Graham decided to go back to basics a little bit and say, you know what, if it worked, then maybe we should go back. I don't know if Durant's going to be quite the right choice in this situation, just because there's a couple of things on James's team that really do threaten that Durant, and there's not really a good way to keep it protected.
Yeah, absolutely difficult to make it work. So we're going to see instead the same leads, the Snorlax and Grimmsnarl, up against this time the Togekiss and Dragapult. So Graham opting to stay with the Snorlax and Grimmsnarl lead that he chose last time.
I think this is a really great turn 0 for both of these players, only because, particularly for Graham, I think this gives them the leg up. Knowing that Snorlax is carrying Yawn, it is going to be a bit more of a difficulty for James to kind of keep consistent pressure on the field, knowing that the Snorlax does pack Yawn.
All right, well, James is going to go ahead and Dynamax immediately. We saw this before with that Dragapult just firing off attacks into the Snorlax as it yawned previously. We'll have to see if that's going to work out for him this time. Big Dragapult going to get a helping hand from pal Togekiss. Make sure that the Max Wormwind deals maximum damage onto the Snorlax. So squishy, all the way down to 32 hit points, not letting Snorlax have any opportunity to set up anything.
No, it would not be able to set up the belly drum here. It doesn't have enough health, but it will have to use its berry, which is also a kind of a boon to Graham's team at the moment because it won't have it for later. But Grimmsnarl going for the Spirit Break does a significant chunk of damage to that Dragapult, and Snorlax going for the Yawn once again did not opt to go for the belly drum, so this is an okay turn for Graham.
Yeah, it gets the Yawn onto Togekiss, but that helping hand damage, really the difference here means that Snorlax is probably in range for another Max Wormwind even without that helping hand, which is a huge difference, huge change from that first game. We saw a similar situation, but Snorlax able to stick around for a while. Jan does force the Togekiss out, brings the Tyranitar in instead to give a little bit more offensive pressure. James is hitting the gas.
Yeah, this is a little bit of an adaptation to what we've seen from games 1 and 2, because originally in game 1, when we saw that Togekiss get yawned, it was actually the Rotom Wash that ended up coming back in its place. So I really like this adjustment from James, particularly because they are in the lead for doing damage to the board. And look at that, Snorlax not going to be able to survive a second Max Wormwind.
Yeah, that second Max Wormwind after the Helping Hand boosted Max Wormwind, enough to pick up the Snorlax, and didn't really get a chance to do much of anything this time around. The yawn that was so effective in game 1 only got one yawn off here in game 3, and Togekiss has already switched out, so no Pokemon going to be asleep unless you see the Milotic. And here, Graham has decided to bring out the Durant.
This is a very interesting choice for Graham. I'm really excited to see how this Durant decides to play alongside this Ludicolo. And especially if the Ludicolo can get off potentially an Icy Wind, maybe this Durant's going to be able to get off some big damage. But the most important thing that I need to see right now is Graham navigate this last turn of the Dynamax from James, because already this Dragapult's gotten significant value from being Dynamaxed.
Yeah, Ludicolo switches out, so no fake out support for the Durant. Graham probably feels pretty safe to bring in this Durant against both the Tyranitar and the Dragapult, since we did see the Dragon Claws and Phantom Forces indicating this is more of a physically based Dragapult, which means that, and the coverage that we've seen, Durant can weather pretty easily, so barring a surprise there, Graham probably feeling pretty safe to go ahead and just Dynamax this Durant and try to get big damage off onto either this Dragapult or the Tyranitar.
Oh, no!
But, oh no! Roast Ant, anybody?
Who was expecting that from the Dragapult? No way.
Yeah, the tech. Max Flare just for Durant. Showed Dragon Claw, showed Phantom Force earlier. Durant thought it was safe, but James had a trick up his sleeve. Fires off that Max Flare, knocks out Durant immediately. And there's the Rock Slide onto Grimmsnarl, dealing a little bit of damage right back.
Now, Graham down to their last two Pokemon. What a heads-up play from James, expecting that the Durant was going to come in and Dynamax and had a tech ready to go for it. That Dragapult got maximum value from its Dynamax turns.
Yeah, and the second time we have seen Durant on team Dynamax and get to do 0 with Dynamax. Instantly faint to a tech. That's gotta hurt. Tyranitar is just going to try and protect itself from the same fate that the Durant had. Well, Grimmsnarl finally shows the Thunder Wave onto that Dragapult.
It's not completely over yet. We do know that the Grimmsnarl is packing a couple of offensive moves, as well as this Icy Wind from the Ludicolo. Going to slow down the pace of the game just a little bit here, but it is going to be a very, very difficult for Graham to come back from this. But the paralysis is going to help.
That's what he needs. Those paralysis, those full paralysis ticks are going to be incredibly important to buy some time and some breathing room for Graham to get back in this game with just the Grimmsnarl and Ludicolo left, and James still having all 4 of his Pokemon.
All 4 of the Pokemon. Unfortunately, those Dynamax turns getting wasted is going to be such an unfortunate circumstance for Graham. But Tyranitar is still going to be one of the fastest Pokemon on the field, getting the Rock Slide off, and we'll see whether or not any flinches happen, but the critical hit's going to hurt.
Critical hit is big damage onto Grimmsnarl. Energy Ball is also big damage, but not enough to pick up the KO, just activating the weakness policy here. So Graham's going to need to get that Tyranitar off the field ASAP. We know that it's the fastest thing on the field right now. Dragapult with the Dragon Claw picking up the KO. Take some damage to the Life Orb at the Spirit Break. It's going to be enough to take out that Tyranitar.
Spirit Break is going to be enough. Tyranitar not going to get a chance to use the weakness policy here, but it still stands as Grimmsnarl against the world for Graham, sitting at a low health pool for now.
Yeah.
James still has the Dragapult on the field, as well as a full health Rotom.
Yeah, full health Rotom in the back. Also the Togekiss in the back. Grimmsnarl, great Pokemon. I love to see the offensive Grimmsnarl that Graham has brought here, but it's just not enough against all of the weight that James has brought to bear on this match. And that's going to be James Katsaros taking that in 3 games.